Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us, or good morning or good afternoon, depending on when you're listening to this. My name is Charles, or Chaz, or Yazik, or the Bard, or the DM. Welcome to the 78th of hopefully many episodes of Bard Advice, a podcast where I do my best to answer questions regarding D&D or all things nerd, anime, etc. What? Comics? Any kind of nerdy stuff. And sports too while we're at it. So I hope everybody's doing well. It's nice to see everybody in the chat, all of the regulars. If you're interested in joining the Discord, Pirate has just dropped the link in there, so feel free to hop into the Discord if you want to hang out in there. If you want to play the new Bard Go game that they've got going, where it's just a bunch of stuff that I tend to say or do, and maybe you'll win bingo. It's bingo for Bard Advice. So check that out if and you wanna. Hope that everybody's doing well. Also, let's do the things that we do at the top of the hour. Obviously, we remind everybody of the email for the show, which is bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice. Please send any questions, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques, etc. over there to bardadvice@gmail.com. If you'd like to get some merch, you can do so over at manshorts.com or more notably over at krakendice.com. I still have not gotten word on when the fourth of the dice sets that we've been releasing will be released, but I was advised that it should be at some point this summer, so fingers crossed, hoping that that's soon. I'll keep everybody abreast of that as best I can on social media and stuff, but go over to krakendice.com. You can get yourself one of the first 3 sets that we've released. And if you'd like to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, you can do so directly via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, Yahzick. And speaking of things that I'm doing musically, I have a few things that I want to talk about on Art Corner this week, so let's get into that. The first thing that I want to mention is, well, I'll tell you a little bit of a background on it. So earlier this week, I guess it would have been last week at this point, I was tagged on a TikTok by this gentleman named Eric Veda. So go back. Eric didn't tag me. It was his video. And he had composed this song, or at least part of a song, called Rollin' Nat 20s, and it was really cool. I got tagged in it twice, actually, so I went and checked it out, and I liked what I heard, so I had messaged him and was like, yo, let's make this a whole thing. So we did, and we put it together. It's called Rollin' Nat 20s, and I've put a link in the description to the YouTube version of it, as well as the link to Eric Veda's Spotify. I don't think that it's on his Spotify yet, so it's not on any of my channels because I'm just the feature on it. But I have linked the YouTube video to it, and I've linked it in the Discord. If you're part of the Discord, I've put it in the regular channel as well as the music channel. But it was a lot of fun. And Eric's a cool dude. I've actually kind of may or may not have like linked him and Songaria up, and we've got like a little bit of a bard band thing going where we're gonna make some music for people to listen to for their campaigns and such. So keep your eyes and ears open for that as we get more details on that. And then also, in addition to Rollin' Nat 20s, just want to remind everybody once again that Math Lord is now available everywhere that you listen to music. Song and I put it together in about 6 months, and if I remember correctly, it is 33 tracks. It's a really, really cool project. It's about, I think that the audio itself is almost 2 hours long, and it's just like a really cool epic electronica hip-hop space epic. So if that sounds something that you might be interested in, please go check it out. I've also got the links to that in the description of this video. We've got there's the Act 1, Act 2, and then there's the link for the Bandcamp as well. So if you're interested in checking that out, please go check that stuff out. It's really cool. And we're working on more stuff, so that'll be really fun. Okay, so that's all we have for Art Corner this week. We're going to get into some questions that we have. So, and this is one of the ones that I didn't really answer because I kind of wanted to read through and see what the actual changes are. So let's take a look at it. This first question is from Zeke, and Zeke asks, "Hi Charles, last week I asked you about your thoughts on the new fighter. This week I asked to hear what you think about the new wizard, specifically their ability to swap out spells during a short rest at level 5. I appreciate all the content, and I'm excited to hear what you and chat think about the changes to the wizard. All right, so I have an actual article about this that I will read. So that was the main change. First of all, thank you for the question, Zeke. That was the main change that I saw, was their ability to swap out spells on a short rest once they hit 5th level. I think that's totally cool. In fact, I think that's kind of the essence of the wizard. You know, the idea of them being a really high int spellcaster class where it's kind of focused more on the learning of spells. They kind of treat spells more of like a trade, as opposed to, like, I feel like wizards and or rather warlocks and sorcerers, it's kind of more of like an innate thing. I mean, obviously all characters are different. So one of the changes that I also saw was that wizards are now able to, during a long rest, I think, change their cantrips, which I didn't know if they couldn't do that anyway. So let's see. Right beyond this, by the way, this is a Gaming Nexus article that I'm reading. Right behind Fighter and Rogue, Wizard's the most popular class. Jeremy Crawford from D&D publisher WotC talks at length about the changes coming to the Wizard in 24. Magic's overpowered in D&D. Well, I'll just make better monsters. Wizards are arguably the most powerful magic users. Say as my players each enjoy a cup. Oh, okay, well, hold on. I don't need all this slice of life stuff. Just tell me what the changes are. The ritual casting tag will disappear because any spell can be cast as a ritual. Casting a spell as a ritual means it takes longer to cast, and ritual casting doesn't burn a spell slot. Oh, that's actually kind of dope. So, yeah, because I always did kind of wonder that with stuff like Longstrider. It's like, well, yeah, you can cast this. You know, I will, admittedly, I'm thinking in the vein of like BG3, but, you know, same floor, different elevators. You can cast Longstrider out of combat and it doesn't burn a spell slot. And it kind of made me think, like, well, gee, shouldn't that be the case with, like, all the spells? Because, you know, you can... Well, hold on, wait a minute. I think I missed something in chat here while I was rambling about stuff. Oh, wow. Sorry to hear all that, Ruby. Jeez, that's tough. Well, thoughts are with you. Hope things improve. That's terrible. All right, sorry, we're talking about wizards. So, starting at 1st level, they can replace 1 cantrip per long rest. No other class can do this. And again, I think that that's fair in the sense that it's for the wizard. Plus, it is a long rest, so. And then at 5th level, you can swap a prepared spell for one in their spell book every short rest. Also, somewhere along the line, Abjurer wizards are just going to be waking up or walking up and shattering spells as a bonus action. Yeah, I'm not totally clear what all of this is as far as the changes, but, you know, I think it's fine. I think the changes seem to be in the same way that, like, with the fighter, giving yourself more specialization, or rather more paths for you to go, and getting more benefit out of things like Second Wind. I think that it's a good thing that wizards are given, you know, because I don't think that that's stuff that's overly OP as much as it's just like gives you more utility as the wizard, which is what you're looking for anyway. You know, that's one of the benefits to the wizard, is that you can do those things. So, yeah, I think it's good. I don't know if anybody else has any opinions on D&D wizards, not the Harry Potter kind, right? Yeah. The old D&D WotC wizard. Yeah. I mean, I think it's fine. I don't see any issues with it. I imagine that will be... When do those books come out? September? August? I imagine that, like, over the course of the next few weeks, it'll probably... that more and more of that stuff will be coming out as to, like, what the changes are going to be. But you know how I am. I'm always of the opinion that you can kind of just make the character what you want to. A lot of it's just conversations between you and the DM. PHB in September. Okay. Yeah, so I expect the next 2 months to just be... And they're probably keeping that in mind, right? Because, you know, we heard about the fighter last week. This week we heard about the wizard. Every day they have a YouTube class preview. Oh, okay. So much for the BG3 video. Oh, yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad that you enjoy them. I enjoy putting those together, the Baldur's Gate 3 videos. They're fun. They can be a bit tedious, but I do think that they're worth it in their production because it's just a lot of fun to make them as well as run through them and edit them. It's just, I've known Ryan and Cody since we were kids, and I've known Justin coming up on 15 years, so it's really just like pals hanging out. How about the option of casting a prepped spell in 1 round? Cast an unprepared spell in 2 rounds plus 1 round per spell of level. Yeah, that could be cool. I like that. It's almost like and it's kind of a power attack in a way, but just more about like timing rather than damage. I don't know. That's just the first thing I thought of because I usually play fighters, but that would be a cool thing if you could either accelerate or defer the timing of the casting. That'd be pretty neat. Well, no worries, Mike. Glad you're here. I'm on Fridays. Here we are, Bard of Ice. Thanks for hopping in. So yeah, I think that there's an answer in there for you, Zeke. I think it's a cool thing. So let's move on because we have more questions. Oh, this is good, this question, because this will give me an opportunity to talk about the meetup and stuff. So thank you for the question, Zeke. The next question we have is from Chris. And Chris asks, hey there, Bard. Another Chris question coming your way. I was just curious if we will be getting some more Man Shorts merch at some point. Outside of the Kraken sets, maybe with the new channel logo. Thanks in advance and keep on barding. Thank you very much for the question, Chris. So we don't have any immediate plans, as far as I know, to do any more merch. Most of that is, well, not. I will say some of that is based on what happened with the meetup. So if anybody doesn't know or didn't remember, last weekend for Free RPG Day, last Saturday, we did a meetup at our local, one of the local FLGSs, the Coliseum of Comics over on Highway 17 in Jacksonville, and nobody came. So one person that was there already kind of recognized us, and then we talked briefly. But, nobody showed up, and I'm sure that part of it is due to us not having any episodes in those weeks running up to it. We probably could have done a better job and put forth more of an effort in terms of marketing. But even with the 2-week notice and posting it on YouTube and Facebook and stuff, I expected to see like at least 1 or 2 people. But when we didn't, it was kind of a bit of a, I wouldn't say like a wake-up call, but it was just kind of like an understanding as to like where we are in the zeitgeist of the space. So at the moment, I'm more focused on making sure that we get this last dice set out because this deal that we've got with Kraken. There is a company that's been trying to get in touch with me for a while about merch, and so I might just speak to them about what options might be available. At a minimum, I might be able to put together a shirt or a hat or something for like Bard of Ice or Yazik, or maybe Man Shorts with the new logo. That could be cool. But yeah, there's not any like major plans at the moment to make a bunch of new merchandise. And, and maybe this company that's been trying to get in touch with me has a different plan with how it works, because different places do it different ways. Some places require you pay up front. Other places you can just kind of like set it up and do drop shipping and stuff. So we'll have to figure out like what works best for us in that department. But I'm not opposed to the idea of putting out more merchandise. I think that'd be really fun. Come to California? No way. I almost moved to California when I was like 21. Do it on Redbubble, put the logo, and you choose what to wear. Oh, that could be cool. Yeah, that's a good idea. Some Bard Advice merch. Yeah. How many fans live there in the Florida area? The first meetup we did, now granted, that was years ago. What was it? 2019 maybe? Maybe 2020. We did it at the same store. It was a different owner at the time, I think, but we had a pretty solid turnout that first meetup we did. I'd say maybe like 50 to 100 people came out the first time. So, I don't know if it's a matter of people not living in the area as much as it was just kind of like, yeah, it must have been before that. Must have been like, it must have been 19. Because I feel like 18 and 19, I feel like 18, 19, and 20 were like our biggest years just in terms of like viewership and interactions. So, is a Dragon Con appearance a possibility? Yeah, when is it? Maybe. Again, it's a logistics question as to whether or not it's something that we would be able to do in terms of time as well as money. And Tennessee, lots of Tennessee. You're the only 10 I see. All right, yeah. So I don't, like I said, I don't have any immediate plans to do any major merch, but with that question, I feel prompted maybe to take a look at it. So, Dragon Con is August through September. Yeah, maybe, possibly. Where is it? Isn't Dragon Con in like Indiana or something? Oh, I started watching that Ren Fair show. I don't want to talk about it yet though until I see more. Oh, it's in Atlanta. That could be doable. That's not that far. That's like a 6-hour drive or like an hour flight. I don't know. I don't want to fly though. This sounds like Nightmare City. Okay, but we got to keep moving. I get distracted. Um, yeah, I'm open to the idea. I'm usually down for whatever. It's just a matter of if it works. All right, this next question is a question that I was going to answer last week, but I ended up not for time purposes. And also, to be honest, I hadn't fully answered it yet, so I wanted to give myself time to like think about it and really answer it. So that's what I'm going to do with this next question from Amanda. And Amanda asks, what magical item have you never used in a campaign that you would love to try in a future campaign? Whoops, we're already here, not starting shortly. So there are a lot of cool magic items that I've heard of or have appeared in episodes that I haven't used before. Not just in 5e, but just like in D&D in general. Over the years, you hear about things, you talk about things. There's a lot of stuff that I have considered using that I haven't used. Whether I would want to use them is kind of a different question, but I think that Bag of Tricks seems really cool. So I was just looking at some of like the more underrated or underutilized magical items in the game. And I think the Bag of Tricks are really cool, especially since there are 3 different kinds of them. Because I think it'd be really rad to run a party where like 3 characters each had one of the different bags. So, for those of you who don't know, a Bag of Tricks is a magical bag, and it appears to just be like an ordinary bag. And it is one of 3 colors: gray, rust, or tan. Each of the bags are essentially filled with 8 creatures. Stuff like dire wolves, lions, apes. Anyway, as an action, you can roll a d8 to summon one of those random creatures from the bag and use it as an ally, either in combat or as a distraction for RP. I think it kind of works with druidic rules where it's just like once their HP reduces to 0, they just kind of like go back into the bag. I think that item in and of itself lends itself to a seriously cool campaign. Because, like I said, there's different bags that have different beasts in them. And so that would be way cool if it was just like a party of like a bard, a druid, and a sorcerer or something. And they all had their own bag of tricks. That would be really neat. Also, a portable hull. That's one that I've never used, and I think that I could immediately get the party into trouble with. And then we got a portable hull to work. Yeah, that's just what I was thinking. I think that we did it in. Oh, geez, now I can't remember. I can't remember the episode it was in. Hold, please. That's a good recommendation by Pirate. I'm gonna grab some water real quick. Okay, sorry about that. The Easter one. It was an Easter one, wasn't it? It was like Easter 2 or 3 or something. Bard Go. Oh no. This is getting. I don't like this, pirate. Here I am thinking that you're looking out for me. You're just trying to get bingo. There's got to be there. That doesn't count. That's interference. What am I missing here in the chat? Banjo of Bumpkin. When played, this cursed item causes your teeth to fall out, feet to grow 1d6 times larger, and you roll with disadvantage on all wisdom and intelligence checks. Your druid had a bag of tricks. My DM kept forgetting that you had it. Yeah, that's a thing that you don't want to forget, because if you could just like pull a bear out of a bag, that's a really cool thing. Pirate being pirate is a card on Bard Go. Okay, well then, how about this? You don't get the one for me taking water, but you can have the one for pirate being pirate. It's a very pirate move of you. I don't know. Anybody else? What are your magic items out there? Stuff that you would want to use. I don't think I've ever used a deck of many things either, come to think of it. I don't think that we've ever actually, like, again, it's a weird one because a lot of this stuff pops up in episodes and scripts that we've done, but we've never actually done them. So a lot of it kind of runs together, and I wonder, like, I have to remind myself, like, was that a session or was that an episode? Was that something that we made up? But is that something that we did as a video, or is it something that really happened? Funniest when we were a tight dungeon, bear blocks hallway for our retreat. Oh yeah, I know. I feel like I would use it way more as like as a tool than an actual weapon or tank. I mean, it'd be nice to have in combat if you needed it, but I feel like I would do stuff like that all the time, where I would just like try and use it as a distraction or as an obstacle. We're using a deck in your current campaign. Pulled 2 cards so far. Oh yeah, how's it going? How's it going with those 2 cards? I know that the deck of many things can take a sharp turn fast, so yeah, I don't think that I've ever done that in a regular campaign, but that would be really fun to do. I will say too that since we started this kind of little musical project, that's been really fun because we're gonna build out like a bardcore / bard step album that is music for your campaign enjoyment. Something that has a little ambiance and you can run in the background of your games. I had a character that sold out his entire village for a cloak of Elvenkind to the Orc tribe because he couldn't afford it. Deck of Many Things was fun and scary. Yeah, no doubt. It's definitely a thing where I feel like a Deck of Many Things would be a lot easier to deal with in a one-shot if you don't have as much attachment to the character. But then again, I'm liable to just like... I've been known to put my main characters in regular campaigns in dire situations on a regular basis. So 3.5 had Boots of Gliding, basically rollerblades. 3.5 has a lot of crazy stuff. I was actually looking through one of the reasons that I ended up just like picking something from 5e, and I don't know if Bag of Tricks exists in 3.5 or not, but I started first looking at the wondrous items in 3.5, and they're just so many. There's so much. I don't know. I don't know if I could have gone through all of those things and found one that would be cool. It was significantly easier to run through items in 5e and find something that was cool in the Bag of Tricks. I think that's neat. It'd be cool to make like a whole party like that. First card made the player lose all XP in their current level and pull another card. Second card had the player fight the next battle solo when she got an instant level up. Oh, when she won, got an instant level up, so kind of broke even. Oh. Yeah, that I feel like, yeah, it seems very like one step forward, one step back. Or rather, one step back, one step forward. Not much progress made. That's something my characters end up doing a lot. All right, so that's that one. Thank you for the question, Amanda. The next question is from Trevor. Oh, and this is cool, because this is about musical stuff. So Trevor asks, hey Yaz, longtime fan, listen to TPK every game day before I DM, thank you, but the Math Lord album is on another level. Got me through a long work trip back from Mongolia. Question, is there any cool lore you can share about the Math Lord universe that didn't make it to the album? P.S. How is the waffle bar aboard the Echelon? Thank you for the question, Trevor. So, for any that don't know, the Echelon is the name of the ship in Mathlord that Song Aria and I are aboard. Um, I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed the album. As I mentioned, it was really fun to put together. I think it is a really cool thing. Just a reminder to everybody, I've linked the Spotify and Bandcamp pages for the Mathlord album in the description, or you could just Google it. You can figure it out. As for lore, I spoke with Song about it earlier today. There isn't too much that didn't make it into the album. We did decide that the waffle bar is housed in an antechamber on the back of the ship, and it's only accessible from the outside. So you either have to be in a ship or go on a spacewalk if you want waffles. Also, you'll notice that on one of the versions of the album cover, which I think are the cooler versions, you do see that Song has on sunglasses that are designed to cover his third eye. And while it was referenced a lot, I think, throughout the album, we never outright explain it. So we may do so if and when we make a second album. That's the plan, I think, is that there any of those kind of loose ends that were in the first album, we can kind of tie up in a second album because we have talked about doing another one. So, but beyond that, I don't know how much lore didn't make it in to the album. I think we covered a lot. I mean, I certainly hope so because it's like almost like I said, the album's almost 2 hours, so I really hope that there's not too much that got left out there. But yeah, that's cool. I'm glad to hear that it helped you on your trip and Laura was happy accidents. Yeah, most definitely. The whole album really just kind of like happened. I don't think that it was a thing that really he or I had planned per se, as much as we just kind of made a song that turned into another, and then we were like, hey, we can make an album. And then 6 months later, 33 song album is out, and we're working on a couple of projects too at the moment, in addition to the Christmas album that I'll be making. So hopefully, for your listening pleasure, it comes out later this year. So, yeah. Thank you for the question, Trevor. That was a quick and easy one. This one is going to be, I think, a little bit more of a discussion. I'm actually really excited to hear about what chat's opinions are on this stuff. This one's from Chris. A different Chris, but a Chris all the same. And Chris asks, we've all heard the what piece of technology would you show to a caveman or someone from the past to blow their mind? Likewise, what is something from our world that you would show a D&D character to blow their mind? Thank you for the question, Chris. And as I said, I think that this was a fun question. It was a fun exercise in deciding. Stop the presses, I'm here, assuming you were running presses. No, that's not. We're not very impressive here. So, all right, we're blowing the mind of a D&D character. It's funny that you ask this because I was just talking to Justin the other day about, some of you might know or remember we had sort of a concept for a show that we were going to try and put together and produce, and it just really ended up not falling into place. Didn't feel right. Didn't feel like we'd figured it out completely. Basically the idea was that someone from the modern world would be kind of transported to a D&D fantasy realm, and then they would have to resolve that, right? They got to figure out how to get back home. And I was thinking recently, maybe we just approached it from the wrong direction, because like it'd be really funny if like a D&D character came to our world, came to the modern world, and had to adapt and deal. And we've kind of touched on that idea before, right? Like we made that sketch a couple years ago, the Thwack the Barbarian, where like I summoned a barbarian and we kind of had to like deal with that. But as far as things that would blow their mind, the smartphone jumps out to me, mostly just because of like its sheer utility and capability. I was talking about this with my coworker and friend Alex, who's much younger than me. I was trying to explain to him how crazy it was rather when the iPhone came out. So the idea that you have this small device, where's my phone? This very small thing, and it's a computer. It's a phone. You can use it to call, text, make notes. It's a calculator, stopwatch, alarm, and you can access the internet. And not just the internet, but specific apps for things like YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram. I do think we tend to kind of take it for granted a bit, or at least just like not, it's not something that's present in our minds because we've all gotten so used to it. It's essentially become like an extension of our hands. It's like its own body part. But I think the smartphone for sure would totally freak out anybody from D&D. Even the wizards, even the spellcasters would be like, what is this? And beyond that, I think just little things like showing an artificer like a car would be pretty cool. Or introducing a barbarian or a fighter to like a chainsaw. And or even like firearms. That'd be pretty crazy to show like a barbarian like a 50 cal. And then if the bard could see what we were able to do with digital instruments these days, they'd probably lock themselves in a room for several months just crafting stuff. Which is also kind of funny because like with this concept album we're building out, that's kind of the idea, the kind of the bit is that these bards have these like special instruments that allow them to produce like more like of an electronica digital but still very bardy minstrelly type music. So yeah, I think any of that stuff. All right, let me see what people in chat are saying. Anything military. 3D printer. Yeah, that 3D printer would be insane. 3D printer's mind-blowing to somebody. You could grab somebody from like 1999 and then bring them here and show them a 3D printer and that blow their mind. A blender. That's good. Air conditioning. That's true. Yeah, that would be pretty crazy. I feel like if you summoned like a barbarian into your backyard or something, I feel like immediately upon coming inside, they would just be like, whoa. Like, what's going on? Maybe it would blow their mind to see the taxes that come out of their paycheck. Yeah, no doubt. That too. Well, taxes in general, they would probably be like, what? What are you talking about? Paying to live. I don't understand. Yeah, how about capitalism just as a system? That would blow a D&D player's mind. They'd be like, "What? What are you talking about? What do you mean? What do you mean minimum wage?" I've held the same answer for all. A grocery store, foods out of season and spices. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, or maybe like a furniture store, or any kind of thing that's like mass produced, right? Maybe like a clothing store would be crazy to them, just because it's like they'd be like, "Where's your tailor?" And then you take them to like Kohl's. They're just like, what? What is all of this? It's like, oh yeah, we have machines that make all this stuff. The ability to follow a story of the family of turtles. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think we all know who that is. You could show them D&D games. Oh, that's true. That'd be fun. That'd be really cool, actually. Although I can't imagine that like a real barbarian or a real cleric would have too much interest in role playing. I think most of us do that because we are pretty normal, pretty normal regular lives for most of us. Not all of us are adventurers, so I don't know how much an adventurer would be. But hey, you never know. Maybe a barbarian's always wanted to be a wizard, but he didn't feel smart enough, and so it's like, well, you could just make one. You just RP as one. A toilet. That's another simple one. That'd be pretty easy. Capitalism, just like feudalism, but with better marketing. Taylor, go to a men's warehouse. Pop rocks. Oh, yeah. How about anything we eat or drink? Like, even just like a Jiffy store, I think would be an experience. See, that's why I like that concept. I might work that out more and talk with Justin about it again. It might be really funny if you could bring somebody back and just like try and integrate them into a modern society when they're from like Faerun or something. It's just like, look, dude, this is what's going on. It'd be funny. You might have to do it with like a couple. Maybe one wouldn't be enough. I feel like if you did it with like a barbarian, a rogue, and a bard, or a barbarian, a rogue, and a wizard or something, that'd be really funny. if it was kind of like a Third Rock from the Sun type situation, but instead of aliens, it was like D&D. It was like D&D heroes. A supermarket, yeah, for sure. Red Bull to the Barbarian. Meatloaf, the artist. You just show him the album cover to Bat Out of Hell. Imagine giving a Barbarian, yeah, a Barbarian with a Red Bull would be pretty insane. Mentos and cola. You're not late if you're here, Kirk. Remember that. Oh, there you go. There's a Bard Go for you. There's a space. Sounds like the start of a really bad joke. A bard, a barbarian, and a rogue walk into a bar. Technically the same person. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be fun. I'll think more on that. That might be something that I actually like fully develop. Do anything for love. Disappoint them with our beer. Well, hey, that depends on what beer you're just giving people, you know? I feel like if a fighter came to modern times, he'd probably be down with like a fat tire. I bet you even a Guinness would probably be pretty solid for them. A lot of craft beers, but certainly not like any kind of conglomerate beer, conglommo beer like Budweiser or like anything New Belgium. Yeah, that's true. Alrighty. So, yeah, those are the things. Smartphone, I think, number one. And then, all those other little things. Chad had a lot of cool ideas as to things that might blow the mind of a D&D hero if they were to visit modern times. Okay, so we've got 2 more questions this evening. We don't have any follow-up, so after the last question, we'll do a little bit of chat. And I do want to make sure that I don't ramble too much on this one because it is kind of a big answer. So let's get into it. Thank you for the question, Chris. This next question is from Mel. And Mel asks, Dearest Bard, you've mentioned before that you don't like getting into politics, I don't. And after last night's presidential debate, I think we can all agree that we're in for a rocky few years no matter who wins. Yeah, well, I mean, I'll second that. Would you ever consider running for public office, either at a local or state level? If so, what would you run on? Well, thank you for the question, Mel. So I'm going to be careful about how I navigate this. I don't want this to turn into like some flame war argument in the chat and in the conversation. So I'm going to try and just keep things focused on the question. I have considered this before. In fact, when I was younger, I think when I was in high school, I did the math and figured out that 2024 would be the first year that I'd be eligible to run. For president, at least. And after the debate, after the debate last night, maybe I should have. But there's a small chance that I might do some running for office in the future. I don't know. There are a lot of life goals and career goals that I want to accomplish first. I certainly don't rule it out. I consider myself to be relatively well-spoken. I think I have some pretty okay ideas. I will say, first of all, if I were to ever run, my slogan would be, I can't be bought. Because I think that that's one of the bigger problems we have facing our society is that, when you create a system wherein money is the most important thing, money's the most important thing, and these corporations just pay these congressmen and senators to vote certain ways, and then you have corruption. So, I would always vote and act on my conscience. And I was discussing this lately, yesterday or the day before maybe, and I personally think that we could completely overhaul our entire political and economic system with 3 easy changes. I would make it simply illegal to accept gifts or bribes from lobbyists. Full stop. I would restrict the age of candidates for any office to be between the ages of 25 and 60. The average congressional representative is like 57, 58. The average senator is 65. Now, I'm not saying that people in that age group don't have anything to offer. In fact, I think it's important to include their opinion in a healthy dose. But when it gets to the point where it's like 65 is the average, this doesn't make sense. If you're a rich 65-year-old white guy, you're downshifting into the last like 10 to 15 years of your life. And if regular citizens are expected to retire at 65, so then should be anybody in public office. Meanwhile, the candidates that we have for president are upwards of 75. I think they're like 78 and 81. What is that? But I mean, I guess there's not too much to do other than cross our fingers and make sure, and hope that it goes as well as it could, or, not as bad as it could. But I don't know. I worry in general. I think that politics has become such a hot button issue because I think a lot of people have their identity tied up in their politics. And I think that that's just as dangerous as having your identity tied up in religion or your sports team or anything. So, yeah, I mean, maybe I'll run one day. Who knows? But I do think that, like, in general, we should consider younger candidates. We should consider candidates that are not part of the established parties. That's the tricky thing about all this stuff, is that it's like everybody's an independent until it comes time to vote. You know what I mean? Like, it's frustrating because I'm somebody who I try my best to vote with my conscience. I'm a believer that the people that fought and died for my right to vote in what has become sort of a bit of a corrupted system. But all that said, like, I try to vote for the candidate that I truly believe will do the best. And as a result, it's usually not one of those two main parties. And it's tough because between the elections, for 4 years, I have to listen to everyone around me say, both of these people are terrible. And then when it comes time to vote, 98% of people vote for one of those two people. So it's just like, I don't know what to tell you other than, like, it's my opinion that you should vote for the candidate that you really believe will do the best job. I don't think that you should vote for the person that you think is going to be the lesser of two evils. I think that concept is what got us here in the first place. I think that people saying things like third-party votes don't count is what makes third-party votes not count. The perpetuating of that idea, that hammering in of, it's propaganda. It's like, oh, well, that's a waste of a vote. It's like, that's crazy. Why? How could you say that to an American citizen, that their vote is a waste, no matter who it's for? It's their prerogative. That's the whole deal, by the way. You're allowed to vote for who you want to vote for. I don't know. But yeah, and then term limits. That was the other thing, right? Age restriction, ban bribes, age restriction, and then implement reasonable term limits in every office. The idea that any office exists without limits is insane. It's brain dead. It's like, it's what? This guy's been in office for 30 years, 40 years, 60 years. That's crazy. So yeah, ranked choice voting. The only thing about ranked choice voting is that, what are we doing? Tricking ourselves into voting for the right candidate? I don't know. I feel like even with ranked choice voting, because the problem that we have is that most people vote for one or the other sides, right? So with ranked choice voting, it's probably just going to be 1-2, right? I don't know. I feel like if there were truly more independent voters, we would see it in election results. And, the third-party votes account for like 2 to 5% of the vote. So, like I said, I'm a believer that everybody's an independent until it comes time to vote. And then and then people make their decision on what side of the fence they want to. All right, so let's move on, because we've got one more question, and then we'll just do some chat. Sorry if I've upset anybody. Like I said, I don't want this to turn into like a flame war thing. Politics is very stressful. I think all of us are just trying to do the best that we can. I think most regular citizens are just trying to do the best they can, and that's all we can do. So, All right, so let's go to the last question of the evening, and then we'll go into a little chat. Thank you for the question, Mel. Hopefully, I didn't trigger anybody. The last question of the evening is from John, and John asks, "Hey Chaz, well, it's official. With the 55th pick in the NBA draft, the Los Angeles Lakers have selected Bronny James. Based on his performance in college, this seems to be a blatant case of nepotism. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the situation, as well as on the draft in general. Thanks." Well, thank you for the question, John. Yeah, so that's been kind of the headline for anybody that's a basketball fan for the last day or two, is that LeBron's son, Bronny, was drafted. He was the 55th pick, which is in the second round of the NBA draft. Close to the bottom, actually, because I think there's only like 58 total picks, so it's kind of like low on the list. All right, so I'll say this: like as far as nepotism goes, I feel like that's a thing that's kind of present in everything, right? So, I mean, and even like in regular jobs, and so you see it all the time. As it pertains to basketball, I know that for sure there are a lot of people that are involved in the NBA, whether they're on the court or in the locker room or in the front office, that you could cite as examples of nepotism. A recent example with players would be like the Antetokounmpo brothers. I don't know if they would have made it into the league if they weren't Giannis's brothers. Maybe they would have. Maybe I'm wrong, but that, a name goes a long way. And, at the end of the day, these NBA teams are there to make money. The way that you make money is we win championships. The way that you win championships is you have superstar players. And a guy like Giannis or a guy like LeBron make the difference in these people's paychecks, believe me. So they kind of will do what they want to do with that. As for Bronny, I do think that there's something to be said just about his general, first of all, just like his DNA, not to mention growing up with and being around one of the greatest to ever play the game. I have a bit of a little silly theory that I was talking about with my wife where like I think that he kept his performance in college to like a mid-level on purpose so that he would fall in the draft and have a better shot at being picked up by the team that would allow him to play with LeBron, in this case the Lakers. Obviously you want to play with your son. Like the concept is usually not available for most people, right? Like the thought of being able to play a professional sport alongside your child it doesn't come up much, right? So like of course you would want to do that. At a minimum, I think Bronny can be a really great role player. I think people are really quick to get obsessive with like offensive stats, like points per game, and use that kind of to judge him as a character in general, as a player in general, rather. He's 6'2". He can be very helpful on defense, things like speed, basketball IQ, intangibles. I'm not prepared to write him off just because he didn't have a very impressive stat lines in college. It's also LeBron's kid, So maybe it'll take a few years to develop, but yeah, I'm certainly not going to write him off. And for all the people that are like, oh, well, he just got drafted because he was Bron's son. And it's like, I hate to tell you, but like he probably would have gotten drafted because he was LeBron's son, even if LeBron had already retired, even if LeBron wasn't in the league. There probably would have been a team that would have been like, he doesn't have the greatest stat lines. He doesn't have the best stats in college, but it is LeBron James' son. Some players don't develop until year 5, and then they become superstars. You never know. So, and then, the whole nepotism thing, I don't know. I feel like nepotism is a word that a lot of people didn't even know until this stuff came up, which is weird because, like, one of the sports podcasts I watched, Nick Wright made a point that like nobody had any problem with it when it was Thanasis, when it was the Antetokounmpo brothers, and that's true. Nobody cared. I think people just kind of like to hate on LeBron, just in general, and so this is just like another opportunity to do that because it's like, oh well, it's just he just got drafted because he's his son, and it's like, yeah. You don't think that if Tom Brady had a son that was in college and maybe didn't have the best stats, you don't think that an NFL team would draft that kid? They would. And it would be because he's the offspring of one of the greatest of all time. So I don't really care what the stat sheet says. He's still LeBron James' son. And I think that he'll perform. At least, maybe not immediately, but I think that he'll develop. I don't see why he wouldn't. I'd say nobody knew Nepa Baby until Kanye's daughter got a case for the Lion King musical. Yeah, what is going on with all of that? This is very weird stuff. It's happened in the MLB a few times. Hockey, I think. Did it happen in the NFL? I'm sure that it has happened in the NFL. Well, weren't Peyton and Eli were both, wasn't Archie Manning like a legend, right? Can't forgive LeBron for what he did to Space Jam. Well, all right. To be fair, LeBron's not responsible for that film in the strictest sense, right? Like he didn't write the script. He wasn't. I'm sure he wasn't in the editing floor. He didn't do any of the marketing for the movie. So, I think that the production of the film as a whole matters more than the individual star that's in it, right? Plus, how much of our love for the original Space Jam is just tied up in nostalgia and just like being 8 years old? Responsible for hey, he's not the best actor, I suppose. Yes, we are officially in chat. I never saw the new one, by the way. I never saw it, so maybe it is bad. But Shedeur Sanders is just following what his dad is saying. Yeah, and Shedeur, they'll draft that kid. Although it's a bit of a different situation. Shedeur is kind of a standout athlete. MJ made a great Space Jam. I don't know, man. I think if you look at that film objectively, it's not great. If we're in chat, you'd like to ask about the new Duval. I don't know anything about it, dude. Isn't that sad? I haven't done any kind of research. It feels like we just spent a bunch of money. But, yeah, geez, I guess it's been 10 years since we put in, like, that giant screen. First Space Jam is not good. Yeah, it probably isn't. Like, at the time, I'm sure it was cool when we were kids, but Northwest was cast as Simba and did a fairly poor job. Yeah, I saw one of the clips. It wasn't that great. But it happens all over the place with people getting hired just because just because of who you know. I've gotten a lot of jobs myself because of who I knew. That's the entirety of how like the film and television culture works, is that it's all about who you know. Tron is being made again. What? Oh, well, thanks for hanging out, cats. So, yeah, we are in chat. We want to do good things of the week. We're just kind of talking about whatever at this point. The new movie, It's Not Made for Us. Yeah, that's true, too. Do a D&D edition. Have all your players select the same classes, but from different editions, and argue about the rules. Oh, that'd be kind of fun. It's not what you know, but who you know. Yeah, definitely. I think that you find that in every field. I don't know that it's fair to just like, oh, look at the nepotism. It's like, there's nepotism all over the place. It's just that usually people don't care if like you're getting a job at an accounting firm because your uncle works there and you're in Omaha, Nebraska. It's like nobody cares about that. But if you're, somebody that's super rich and in the public eye, then it's more of a big deal. Too many reboots and remakes. Yeah, I saw a thing about Beetlejuice too. Or I guess it's just called Beetlejuice. Did someone's car get fixed? So I've yet to, the light went off. So that's a good thing, I guess. And I've got to just drive it until I get it down to put some fuel injector cleaner in it. And hopefully that'll be okay. But again, it's not driving weird. So I think it comes down to how you perform. If you get the job and don't measure up, it's nepotism. If you rock and roll, and prove your worth, it's using connections. Yeah, I suppose. I mean, at the end of the day, whether the talent is there or not, the name is there, right? So it's a little difficult to separate the two, I think. Now I need to get the light fixed, too. Oh, my light behind me went out. I didn't even know that. When did that happen? How did we not get any multi-slide questions? Yeah, that's true. We didn't. We just had single slides this week. You've been playing the old Ultima Online game from 20 years ago. It's still fun. Good thing this week is found a table to play. Oh, you found a table to play at, and you'll be DMing a game through a Saturday. Nice. That'll be fun. Anyone doing anything fun next week? Yeah, I got to finish watching this Ren Fair documentary thing. It's very interesting. Ultima Online. Ultima Online. Oh, yeah, I forgot about this. This makes me think of Stronghold. I know that's a different thing, but it just, like, reminds me. Listening to Alchemist Fire. Oh, we appreciate it. Hope you enjoy it. Feel free to download it. There's a bunch more on in my albums. Good thing of the week, going to a Faerun fashion show, an after party tomorrow with a friend. They're running one-shot adventures, so you get to use your Sarah dice. Oh, that'll be way fun. Gonna smoke some brisket for the 4th. Oh, yeah, I keep forgetting about the 4th. My wife and I were out today. There's fireworks for sale everywhere, dude. Listen, if you're going to, by the way, if you're going to be doing fireworks, please be careful. Seriously. It's such a thing like wearing your seatbelt where people think like, I'll be fine, and then you don't have a hand. So just be careful. Be very cautious if you're going to be using fireworks, particularly around children and or people that are drinking. Just be safe. Don't end up in an ER for the 4th of July. That would suck. That would be a terrible way to spend the holiday. We haven't had a sponsors in a while. Yeah, it's going as it goes, I suppose, getting what we can. This week in particular, we kind of had to do a pushback on one, so we're not going to be doing an episode this week, but we'll be returning next week with the additions, so not until 3 a.m., no fireworks. How do you pace your 5e games? For example, in 3 hours, what do you hope to get done? Combat every game or let the player set the pace? I don't know, kind of both. Like, I think a solid session is like one big encounter. And that doesn't necessarily have to be combat. It can be like, like an RP, like a puzzle or, but it is, I do like to have combat as much as possible. I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe I'll have to, maybe send me like a more official, if you could send an email with that question, I'll answer it next week. I can maybe break down like what things I think it should include. So, it's weird how the 4th of July is known both as drinking holiday. Fireworks story. Do I have any fireworks story? Oh, yeah, I did have a fireworks story when I was in my early 20s. And actually, I don't know if my mom knows this story. When I was in my 20s, and Justin and I, we would spend a lot of time out at his house, at his dad's house on Fleming Island. And we were doing fireworks for the 4th one year, and we were all drinking and just having fun. And we had like a mortar. We set up like a big mortar thing. So it was like, I think it had like a cardboard bottom, and then it was like a metal tube that was like, I don't know, 3 or 4 feet tall, maybe 2 or 3 feet tall. And, you'd drop the firework down in there, and it would shoot up. And we were all just kind of like sitting in a line, and they dropped the firework in to shoot it off, and the mortar fell over such that it was just like pointing at the group of us. And so we were all freaked out because it would assuredly had shot out and hit somebody. And maybe even like started a fire in the woods. Who knows? Thankfully, our friend Duncan, who's in the Air Force now, and he's like jokingly one of my nemesis. Duncan, he's really funny. Duncan thought quickly. It was almost like that Captain America scene where he jumps on the grenade. Duncan, thinking and reacting very quickly, thankfully, ran over and grabbed the thing and lifted it up, pointed it towards the sky so that it would go off. And it went off, as soon as he pulled it up, it fired off into the sky. So that was a close call. And then over the years, I think that certainly when I was younger, we did stupid stuff with like bottle rockets. And so, yeah, just be careful with that stuff. Um, Plan out the campaign a few sessions ahead and see what will get done in the allotted time, knowing the party's going to get into shenanigans. Yeah, it's inevitable that there'll be shenanigans, but someone whose game isn't very combat centered and more like a dating drama role. The D&D Teacher Edition. Consider Daycare Edition. I've not. That'd be funny. Oh man, that'd be a different kind of nightmare. So, fireworks that are going to be shot out of a tube. Yeah. Mortar, not like a real military mortar, but it's just fireworks that, like Chris said, fireworks that are meant to be shot out of a tube. And that one almost didn't. Or rather, it almost got shot out of a tube into a group of innocent, drunk 20-year-olds instead of into the sky where it should have gone. Thankfully, Duncan redirected it. It's a typical Duncan W. Just don't let the daycare be run by Florida Man. Hey, maybe you do make the daycare run by Florida Man. That'd make it way fun. I bet you that I could go and find just daycare Florida Man stories to put that together. Roman Candle Wars. No, not that. Florida Man is the dad for these kids anyway. That's true. It's true. Had a step uncle put a mortar upside down. Still have the scars on your calves. Dang. I did not see that the NHL draft was tonight. Anything special? Is there any I will say I didn't fully answer the end of that question because John asked me about what I thought about the rest of the draft. I don't think that there's too many like major superstars coming out, but I could be totally wrong. Again, like like I said, some players don't develop until like 4 or 5 years into the career. And I saw that Zach Edey went to the Memphis Grizzlies. It'll be interesting to see like how he plays alongside Ja and what's that kid's name? The depoy from Memphis. Triple J. I can't think of it right now. But there's that, and then like the first 2 picks I think were the Frenchmen. So that's been a bit of an increasing trend with these European players. I think giant people are coming back, bro. For real. Because, Wembanyama got drafted last year. He's 7'4". This kid that just committed to UF, Oliver Rue, is 7'9". And I just also saw a TikTok the other day about this kid who's like 10 years old and he's 6'3". Crazy. Wacky stuff. Congrats America on 30 years of owning the cup. Much love to the Canucks. Yeah, and also Florida. Yeah? Hockey runs through Florida, I guess. What has it been, like the last 6 or 7 years we've either been in the cup or won it? Whether it's the Lightning or the Panthers. So that's interesting. Be wild to watch on the Sphere. Wait a minute. Oh, yeah, that would be cool. I feel like I'd want to watch something like Jaws or Alien in the Sphere. That would be terrifying, both of those. I don't know why I mentioned those both, but that would be really scary. Or maybe something like Mad Max or like The Wizard of Oz, The Abyss. Oh my God. Or Sphere, right? You could watch Sphere in the Sphere. There's an exhibit joke somewhere in there. All right. Well, here we are at the end, folks. We did it again. We've gone through yet another episode. Before we get out of here, we'd like to remind everybody once again of the email with the show. It's bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice. Please send your questions, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques, stories, follow-ups, all of those to bardadvice@gmail.com. And thank you for all that do continue to send questions. Just a reminder, you folks that send in the questions are half the content of this show. I'm just the guy that answers them. So please send them to bardadvice@gmail.com. If you want to get some merchandise, do so over at manshorts.com and or krakendice.com. And if you'd like to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, you can do so directly via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, YAHZICK. We will be back next week, same Bard time, same Bard channel, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Man Shorts YouTube channel. Like to thank all of our members, our patrons, our super chatters. Remind everybody to please like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, rate the podcast, join the Discord. And I think that's it. The audio for this podcast, as always, will be made available tomorrow at 12 p.m. noon Eastern Standard Time. We will see you next time. I hope that everybody has a fantastic weekend and an even better week, and we'll see you next time.